Okay then, just going to run through some calculator methods here so we don't lose any easy marks in the calculator, and that's so that we know where a lot of our buttons are. So something as simple as the first question, it is as simple as saying, do you know how to fill that into your calculator? So if you've got the Casio, this is how it should look. 2.3 plus 2.1, and then that is saying cubed. You've got an option to press that button, which is a great one because you can fill any number in, so to the power of any number. So if that was a 4, you could put a 4 instead of a 3. So I can fill that in myself and pop a 3, and I can see that'll be right. Also, instead of that button, because it's specifically cubed, I also have that button which would do the same thing. So either way you do that, it's just a case of pressing equals 11.516. Tell a lie, 11.561. So make sure you do that. Obviously, if it is worth 2 marks, you might want to just do 2.1 cubed first of all on its own and show the examiner you know what the button is. So I could have said that's 2.3 plus 9.261. So if it's worth more than 1 mark, try and show as much working out as you can. Question 2. It's in brackets and it's saying the cube root of 27. So the first thing you need to put in place is a bracket. Then I'm looking for this symbol here, so the cube root. So that isn't a square root, we're looking for a cube root. So if we look here, that's the square root one, and that one above it is got the 3 with it, so it looks exactly like that. So in order to get into that, I need to press shift and that button. Need to fill in that, so 27. Now notice that there's a gap between it, so I need to come across a gap, because if I stay there, that will put the add, and that's still in the square root. So I need to just come across one side, and then I need to add 3 to it, and then finish my bracket off. I could press equals here if I wanted to, or I can press times 4 straight away. And that gives me 24. 24. 3A says write 7.2% as a decimal. So on the Casio, it's really good, you've got a percentage button. So I can literally fill in 7.2 and then find the percentage button. So glance across the tops, look for the percentage symbol, and there it is. So if I want that again, it's shift and the bracket, so shift bracket. We can see that says 7.2%, so I'm just going to hit the equals button. That will give it me as a fraction, but it didn't ask for a fraction. So one of our best friend buttons here, S to D, it will change it from the fraction to the decimal. And there it is. So our answer is 0.072. If you don't own that posh button, then to get from a percentage to a decimal, percent is per 100, so 7.2 divided by 100. So if you type that in your calculator, 7.2 divided by 100, it will give you the same answer. Question 4 is just a bit of triangle work, and it's telling us it's isosceles, so it's just, again, make sure we use our calculator and the technique for the exam. So if this is isosceles, the symmetry is there. If this angle's 34, then this angle's 34. That's it. So not really a calculator question, that one. Quick recap on isosceles. If they ask you to work at the top angle though, we would then use our calculator, 34 add 34. You can show the examiner that, but grab the calculator and let it do the hard work. 34 add 34. That's 68. So you don't have to show the full working out. And then 180 in a triangle, take away 68. And again, let the calculator do it. 180 minus 68. That's what we mean by show you working out. We don't mean physically do it. Write the calculation and let the calculator do the hard work. Question 5, just a quick one on volume. So volume is the amount of space inside the 3D shape. So its 3 dimensions are 11, 3 and 4. So 11 times 3 times 4 on that one. Just a quick calculation. 11 times 3 times 4. That says add. 11 times 3 times 4. This is a good thing about showing you working out, because for some reason if I did type that in wrong and I accidentally wrote 132, by showing the calculation I get the marks. Question 6, quick recap on percentages. Again, we spoke about the percentage button, so we can type that in the calculator. 35% of, in maths, 3 lots of something, something of something is the times operation. and then I can just type that in the calculator. This is great for knowing how to use your calculator. So 35, there's the percent button, pop it there, 35% of 900, easy maths, let the calculator do it, 315. If you kind of want a check method, because some of you are good at kind of mental maths percentages, just think about, well, 10% is 90, and then 20% is 180, 30% is 270, so you can just check your answers sensible if you don't like the fact of using a calculator. Question 7, not really a calculator question, but says write all the integers between the values -1, and this says x is less than 5 or equal to it, but x is bigger than -1, but not including the -1. Okay, so our integers, our whole numbers between -1 and 5 are 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. The 5 is included because of that line there. Okay, -1 obviously isn't included. 0 isn't an integer, it's got no value, so 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Question 8, you're asked to write 7/15 as a decimal. Again, it's just a calculator job. Press the fraction button and type in 7/15. Literally hit equals. Again, our trusty friend, the S to D button, will change it to a decimal for us. Note, if it's got a dot there, it's recurring, you have to write that down. So 0.46 recurring. Okay, on to question 9. It's going to be a long video just so we can get some of the skills in, but it's worth watching, so don't give up now. Okay, find the missing value, question mark. Now this might not be the question in itself, you might have a wordy question where you're thinking, ooh, in the context of something, how many 3 pences make up £3? So whatever the context is, sometimes you're asking yourself, well, what do I times by? So this is where the question mark comes in. All we're saying is if you ever get this kind of calculation where you said 0.03 times something is 300, we just need to keep focusing on our inverse operation. So to undo that, to work out our question mark, a bit like balancing, instead of times it by 0.03, we're going to do 300 divided by 0.03. Again, calculator, pop it in, 300 divided by 0.03, and that is 10,000. Now, if you ever do these kind of questions and you think, what, that seems a bit weird, how is it 10,000, is that even possible? And just because you've used your calculator you're not sure, remember you can always check your answer. So I think it's 10,000, I'm going to pop it back in and check, 0.03, when I times it by 10,000, do I get 300? And there you go. So it's nice to kind of, even though you use the question mark technique and inverse, be sure to double check that number is definitely right. Question 10a says write 44% as a fraction and simplify your answer fully. Well, I'm getting bored of telling you now, but 44% can just go straight into calculator. So type it in, 44%, hit your percent button. Magic, press the equals button, no S to D needed, it's gave you as a fraction. 11 out of 25. The good news is your calculator actually simplifies it automatically, because actually what we should know is 44% is 44 per 100, and the magic of the calculator is it does the equivalent fractions and divides by 4 automatically for you. So bonus when you're on the calculator paper. On to some more questions then. So work out 3/7 of 770. Again, this could be a really wordy question. Bring in somebody's name, tells you how much they spend on rent or whatever the context is. But essentially, if you're ever asked to find a fraction of an amount, remember what I said about of. In maths, we just say of is multiply, and you can do this on your calculator. 3/7 of 770. So we know where our fraction button is, fill in the 3/7, of means times, and the number was 770. Hit your equals button and you got 330. Done. Obviously, if that doesn't sit well with you because you don't like the kind of fact that it's taken away your thought process, there is nothing stopping you kind of imagining it, let's say, as a block of 7 or a pizza. If you can do pizzas, great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. If you think about the non-calculator method, you might be tempted to go, right, I'll split it into 7 first of all. 770 split into 7, but let the calculator do the hard work because it's a calculator paper. Hit the equals, it gives you 110. So do 110 in each, 110 in each, 110 in each. I'm not going to write it in all of them, but that could be there. If I want 3 of them, I want those 3 sections. So 3 lots of 110, 3 lots of 110. Type it in your calculator, and Bob's your uncle. Well, maybe he's not, but hey ho, 330, same answer. Okay, find the missing value here then. Now this is the one that catches some people out. Let's just think about this firstly. 120 divided by something is 0.12. Some people's temptation here is to think this part here and think we multiply by 120, but that isn't going to work because it's actually the question mark that's being divided. So let's write it like this, see if it helps. 120 divided by something is 0.12. What we'd normally do is eliminate the denominator, so we'd actually be timesing, because that's the inverse of dividing, we'd be timesing by the question mark, timesing by the question mark. What that gives us is the 120 on its own, but then the question mark is being times by the 0.12. Now obviously we still wanted to find the question mark, but now because the thing that we want to get the question mark on its own, but the operation is now with the other one, I can now do the inverse of timesing by 0.2, which is divide by 0.12, and do 120 divided by 0.12. Do that on the calculator. 120 divided by 0.12, and that's going to get me 1,000. So question mark equals 1,000. I can check it. 120 divided by 1,000 is 0.12. I'm just going to show kind of the classic mistake though, because this is where we can see it's definitely wrong, and this is all about checking. 120 divided by question mark is 0.12. I know the temptation might be to be like, that's divide, so you times by 120, times by 120, but remember that is completely wrong. I'm just modelling why it's completely wrong. You'd then say question mark is the answer to that, so 0.12 times 120, that will give you 14.4, and this is all about the check method. So if it was true, we'd expect to do 120 divided by 14.4 and get that 0.12. 120 divided by, what was it, 14.4? Yeah, does not equal what we were looking for. So I can prove it's wrong. So it is an unusual one. If you are really stuck, remember there's nothing wrong with just trying your options. We should see there's a link here. It's definitely moved in the place value table. So it's either a 10, 100, 1,000, and so on. Okay, going to carry on then. Which fraction is bigger? Again, this is the calculator paper now, so it's all about using your calculator. So I'm going to type in the calculator, well, what is 2/5 better known as? So 2/5 is better known as 0.4. So I'm going to show the examiner I've used my calculator and I know what that is. Then I'm going to do the same for 4/11ths, fill that one in, 4/11ths, and press equals. S to D, 0.36 recurring, 0.36 recurring. Think about it, it's like money. This is like 40p. If I put an extra 0 on, this is like 36p. Which fraction's bigger? 2/5. Obviously I could use equivalent fractions if you wanted to go that way with them, if you prefer that, and get them both up to a common denominator, which in this case would be 55. The first one will be times by 11, so that will be 22. The second one will be times by 5, so that will be 20. And that is still bigger, but it's a calculator paper, so stop using your calculator, non-calculator techniques, let the calculator do the hard work. Next one, t equals 5 plus 3b, where b equals 10, find the value of t. So find this answer, so find t when b is 10, so 5 plus 3 lots of b, so 3 lots of 10. Show the examiner that to start with, and then just use your calculator. 5 plus 3 lots of 10 is 35. Again, don't show off and do it in your head. Remember, your calculator will be set to BIDMAS and do it properly, but if you were doing it manually, that would be 30 and 5. Part B is the same, so I'm going to leave that one out. The next one, mark the shape with a pair of parallel lines, so not really a calculator technique, but the parallel lines are the ones that don't meet when you continue the lines on, so it's that pair there. 7b, work out the difference between 5 and minus 13. So imagine on a number line, 5's up there, minus 13 somewhere down here. We want to know the difference between these two. Some people will know it as a subtraction, so you'll do 5 minus minus 13, which is fine because your calculator can do negatives. 5 minus minus, so I've hit the minus button twice, 5 minus minus 13, and press equals. What your calculator knows that if you take away a bad thing, it's a good thing, so 5 plus 13 is 18. Alternatively, if you would have done minus 13 minus 5, so minus 13 minus 5, you would have got minus 18, but a difference is never a negative thing, so the difference is 18 between those two. Even though that's minus 18, we don't give a negative answer for a difference between them. Okay, because if this was someone's ages, the difference between someone who's 13 and 5, if we ignore the negative, the difference between someone who's 13 and 5 we would still say is a positive answer. Okay, just a couple more to go then, and then you are done from me. Find the area of a semicircle with a diameter of 6. So we need to know our formulas. Area is pi times the radius squared, but it says a diameter of 6. Well, I don't know why that's put 10 there, so I'll just scribble that out. Diameter of 6. So the full length is 6. So the diameter is 6, which means halfway is a radius, so a radius is 3. Remember that the semicircle, though, it's only half of the shape, so that's for the full circle. I'm going to have to half it at the end. So when you type in the calculator, pi times 3 squared, let your calculator do the hard work, locate the pi button. So again, pi's down here, that's what we use. So it says pi, so shift and that button, so shift and that button, pi, and then it's times by 3 squared. So again, that's your square button, but you could have used that one if you really wanted to. That's the full circle, so 9 pi. We needed half of it, so I just literally hit the divide button. Divide by 2 is 9 over 2 pi, or 14.13. So I'll put it as a decimal. Let's pop it there. 14.137. If it says to one decimal place, cut it off. The 3 doesn't round it up. 14.1. I think we've got a couple more to go then. Right, 0.23 as a fraction, so that's just a simple case of can you type that into your calculator. So 0.23, type it in, hit the magic equals button, and it will give it you as a fraction. And that's it, 23 out of 100. And to be fair, that could have been done without, but let the calculator do the hard work. And the final one, well done if you've stayed the whole way through. Express 120 out of 400 as a percentage. That out of, remember, it's out of is like a division. So 120 out of 400 as a percentage. So I'm going to type it in, 120 out of 400, and that is 3 out of 10. Now, it simplifies it for me, which in this case you probably could get straight to a percentage, but it's good to make other links in case it's hard. So it's 3/10 or 0.3. If you prefer to go from a decimal to a percentage per 100, you can just let the calculator do the hard work and times by 100 to get to percent, so it's 30%. Or if you like the equivalent fractions and you know what to do to it to get to 100, you can obviously times that by 10, and that will be 30 per 100, 30%. Okay, and that's it from me. Good luck revising.